I've listened to The Sky is Crying by Stevie Ray Vaughan for a year.
And I listened to it once yesterday.
Welcome to Spin It.
Anything we were supposed to talk about this episode that happened in one of the previous ones that we're forgetting that the audience is looking for closure on?
Not that I know of. Welcome to Spin It, the record ranking podcast for people who would rather be listening to music. I'm James, and with me is Connor.
Then you were really gassing it up there, and then you slammed on the brakes for my name. I don't know how to take that.
I don't know. I just like to mix it up sometimes.
It was a real undercut.
Should I overcut it?
Yeah.
Connor!
Oh gosh. That scared me.
I don't know. You just were giving me crap about it, so I thought I'd reverse course.
I genuinely jumped in my chair.
Fantastic. Well, we're here to talk about another fantastic album of my choosing and Connor's...
My what?
I don't know. I didn't know where that sentence was going to go. The album that I chose and Connor's stuck with. And this week, I picked Stevie Ray Vaughan's The Sky is Crying.
Some real blues, not that fake blues from last week.
Last week, we touched a little bit on the blues rock, right? Janis Joplin, very blues-inspired. And you didn't like it. So I thought I would...
Double down?
Kind of test your limits. Yeah, I double down and test your limits with the blues. And see if, you like more instrumental blues, guitar player blues, and just...
I can't believe you didn't start with something a little more traditional like this, and then test my limits. You kind of went in the reverse order.
You're right. Well, it felt like Janis Joplin last week was meant to be Janis Joplin week.
Okay, then.
Don't ask why. You can feel it sometimes. But for those of you who don't know, let's talk a little bit about Stevie Ray Vaughan. Stevie was born in Dallas, Texas in 1954, and he started playing guitar at age 7. He was inspired by a lot of the greats like Lonnie Mack, Albert King, Jimi Hendrix, Muddy Waters, the works, really. He dropped out of school and then moved to Austin, Texas to play music. And that's where he started to get really popular. And he actually ended up catching the attention of David Bowie. Maybe you heard of him?
Nah.
No? Oh, well, get ready.
Just kidding. He's in my favorite movie.
That's right, David Bowie is in your favorite movie. Should we leave it ambiguous or should we tell him?
Everybody in the comments, guess at my favorite movie.
Guess your favorite David Bowie movie. But because David Bowie, noticed him and took a liking to him, he ended up playing guitar on Bowie's 1983 album Let's Dance.
Did he dance?
Yeah, he did. Maybe. I don't know, but probably.
You were really confident for that and immediately second-guessed it.
How can you not dance when you're making an album called Let's Dance? Have you heard the song Let's Dance? It invites.
Have you heard the song I Don't Dance from High School Musical 2?
Yeah, I have.
There's a lot of dancing in a song called I Don't Dance.
Well, you're right. I guess there could be no dancing in a song called Let's Dance. But that's not the point. After that, he moved on to a solo career, and then he released his debut solo album, called Texas Flood in 1983, at which point he really, really started to take off. He would borrow a lot of guitar tricks from the greats that he would watch, like Hendrix, like I said. He would play the guitar behind his head, he would pick the guitar with his teeth. He was a real showman, he got all the tricks.
Now, when you say pick the guitar with his teeth, do you mean hold a guitar pick in his mouth and pick, or literally use his teeth to pluck the strings?
I mean, literally use his teeth to pluck the strings.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I feel like I hear the cries of 1,000 dentists all crying out at once.
Yeah, it's not easy. I can't imagine it'd be easy, but it's impressive, or at least it looks cool. Over the course of his life, he would release 3 more studio albums: Couldn't Stand the Weather, Soul to Soul, and In Step by 1989, and he also put out a live album. Much like some of the other artists that we've talked about, Stevie did struggle a lot with drugs and alcohol. He was drinking even before he started to play guitar. At age 7, he snuck his dad's drinks when he was 6.
Jesus.
I know. And by 21, he'd gotten into cocaine as well. So, kind of a lot of stuff going on there. For a long, long time, at that. Stevie passed away unexpectedly at age 35 in a tragic accident. In 1990, he was leaving a performance in Wisconsin via helicopter because the venue that they were at, there weren't a lot of roads to leave, and it was crowded with fans and tourists and stuff, so the normal thing that people would do is leave in a helicopter to avoid the traffic and being accosted and stuff. So it was a foggy night, and visibility was really bad, and the helicopter crashed into a ski hill that was less than a mile away from where it took off. Everybody on board was DOA, including some members of Eric Clapton's touring band. And, obviously it really came out of nowhere. So that's a bit of a tragedy. And even though his career was cut quite short, he's obviously gone down as kind of a legendary name in the world of blues rock and guitar greats. In 1982, Vaughan became one of the first members inducted into Austin's Music Hall of Fame. He's actually the first musician to receive a public monument in Austin, and he's had several awards and scholarships set up in his name. He was posthumously inducted into the Blues Hall of Fame in 2000 and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2015. He's sold over 15 million units in the United States. He's earned 6 Grammys, and The Sky is Crying, this album, took home a win for the Best Contemporary Blues Album. Little Wing won Best Rock Instrumental Performance that same year, and Rolling Stone ranked him number 7 on a list of the 100 greatest guitar players of all time.
When did that list come out?
The list came out in 2015, I believe.
Oh, okay, that's actually really recent.
Yeah. A couple other fun trivia tidbits about Stevie Ray Vaughan that I really love as a guitar player, or that you might find interesting as a listener, I guess.
As not a guitar player.
As not a guitar player, yeah. Stevie Ray Vaughan kind of became synonymous with the Fender Stratocaster, a really, really popular model of electric guitar. I own a few Strats myself, and I love them. He picked the Strat for its strong sound and its versatility, and I think that's the thing that he kind of exemplifies on this album, is a lot of the ways that you can make different sounds with the same guitar. But he was a guitar collector. You know, he got guitars at pawn shops from his famous friends, like Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top. He had them custom made to give away as gifts. In the early days of his musicianship, his wife Lenora, also known as Lenny, even had to raise money from friends and family for a $300 guitar he couldn't afford because, quote, she could tell how badly he wanted it, and so he named it Lenny after her. It's cute. Name the guitar after your wife.
I mean, it's the least he could do. She got it for him.
If anyone buys me a guitar out there, I'll name it after you. I haven't named any guitars, actually. I should come up with names for my guitars.
Should name one of them the Mixtaper?
No.
What if the Mixtaper told you his real first name? Would you name the guitar after him?
Yes, maybe.
I'll run it by him.
But anyway, the story ends. In 2004, Lenny was auctioned off, not his wife, the guitar. The guitar was auctioned off and bought by Guitar Center for $623,500. I can't imagine just selling a guitar to someone for, like, buying it for $300 and then a couple dozen years later flipping it for $623,000.
What about buying a car for like $3,000 and selling it for like $500,000?
Are you talking about Janis Joplin? Yeah.
Yeah, whatever those numbers were.
It's the same thing.
I wasn't on that game of guess that dollar amount.
Darn it, I should have played the game. Oh well. He also had some really unique things that he would do as he would play the guitar, some stylistic choices. He would tune his guitar down a half step. So instead of standard tuning, everything would be tuned down one little half step. He also liked for the neck of the guitar to be asymmetrical. He wanted it to be thicker on top because it was more comfortable for his play style, where he would keep his thumb over the top of the neck. So the necks of his guitar was skinny on the bottom and got fatter up the neck. He really, really, really loved the vibrato bar, a technique that we hear a lot in his playing, and he had to actually seek out custom ones because the normal ones would need to be replaced too often. So he got vibrato bars made out of steel. Another thing that he would do is he would flip his guitar picks around backwards. You know how a guitar pick is kind of shaped like a rounded triangle. He would use the thicker side of it instead of the thinner part, which would produce a warmer tone instead of the sharper sound that comes from the more narrow side of the pick. And he actually loved to play with thicker guitar strings. It really, really, really messed with his fingernails because he used thicker gauge strings. He would regularly split his nails from playing so intensely, and at one point, he even had to borrow superglue in the middle of a performance to keep his nail in decent shape so that he could keep playing.
That superglue company should use that as like advertisement. They're like, whatever gun is used in the Jurassic World movies, like, is on their website. It's certified to be used against a T-Rex because it was in that movie.
Are you kidding me? Oh.
You know, like, could you imagine? Yeah, it's like it like shows a bunch of animal icons for the different animals it's good for. So, you know, it's like raccoon, tiger, bear. It ramps up, and then the last one is T-Rex.
Find your inner Goldblum. Buy the T-Rex gun.
But could you imagine the superglue company did the same thing for like things it's good for? It's like a piece of paper, maybe it's gluing a button back on, like buttons, like just something. And then the last
Gluing
one
a
is
button
a
back
finger.
on?
I don't know.
How are you making your clothes?
Listen, I've never been known for my on the spot hypotheticals. All right.
You're right. It's actually a weaker point for you.
Do you not just glue your buttons on? Are they not just decorative?
No, they're not.
I was honestly thinking like arts and crafts, like taking buttons and putting them on things for arts and crafts.
Okay.
Clothing's more funny.
It is. It's like, oh no, the button on my pants popped off. Give me the super glue.
I mean, would it not work?
I don't think it would.
It might.
Well, the whole point of a button is it gets tugged on.
If it's strong enough super glue, you could tug on it.
Hey, audience, if any of you know about any tuggable super glue, let us know, and we've got an experiment to run.
Like a glue.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about The Sky is Crying specifically. If you haven't heard it, if you want the context, you know what to do. Listen to it. And okay, so you may be wondering, you said Stevie released 4 studio albums, and you listed them off, and The Sky is Crying wasn't on that list. What gives? Well, The Sky is Crying was released posthumously in 1991, and this collection of 10 tracks was compiled over the years from a bunch of old recordings, a bunch of outtakes that he did with his band, Double Trouble. With the exception of Empty Arms, every single track on this album was previously unreleased, which officially makes this record Vaughan's 5th and final studio album, even though it was put together by his brother.
What made you pick this one over any of the ones he did when he was alive?
It's a good question. I had people recommend this album to me. I figured it'd be an interesting place to start. And I don't know, I just really like the emotion behind it being the first album and only album released after his death of all new material. It's interesting because even though he had passed, this was like the last Stevie Ray Vaughan album that could exist, you know? And I just think that's really cool. Well, what I will say is, even though Vaughan wasn't around to see it, the album met a lot of success. It reached number 10 on the charts, making it Vaughan's highest charting record. The one thing I will say, though, is a lot of these songs are covers. Vaughan himself only gets writing credits on 2 of these tracks, but I think his impact on the classics and the covers that he does on this record is really clear from the start. Like, he's really left his mark on them and made them his own, even though he doesn't necessarily get the songwriter credit. And I think what's cool about this collection, too, is that it's fairly diverse within the broader blues genre. We've got everything from blues classics to the originals to instrumentals. We've got covers of Jimi Hendrix, Elmore James, Howlin' Wolf. I really like the array, and I really like the time span, because all these songs were recorded between 1984 and 1989. They really cover the entirety of his career, which is another thing that makes this collection really unique. You know, all these other albums were snapshots of him at a specific point in time. This one is career spanning, and I think that's cool.
It's almost like a greatest hits album, but with all new material.
Yeah, exactly like that, which I don't know if we'll ever do another album that kind of has that distinction, but that's a lot of backstory. Now it's time to get into the games. It's time to play Factor Spin.
Let's just get him out here.
You clear your throat unsuspiciously.
Hey, it's me, the mixtaper. I'm here.
Hello, welcome back to the show. How did you feel about Janis Joplin? I know Connor absolutely did not like that album at all, but what did you think about from like a fact standpoint as an artist?
Did I win that round? I don't remember.
Yeah. You got a win.
It was my first win in forever, right? Yeah, I loved it. It was a great episode.
It was your first win in a long time. I'm excited to see what facts you've dug up on Stevie Ray Vaughan. I'm guessing a lot of them will be totally a surprise to me.
Yeah, do you not know a lot about this guy?
I know a good amount, but your facts tend to be things like he owned an elephant or something. Like stuff that I wouldn't know.
Except for when you do know them and completely disappoint me.
Yeah, I still am sorry about the Head and the Heart episode.
Let's just jump into my first one, shall we?
We shall.
He once did a whole concert dressed as Hulk Hogan.
Okay, all right. When did this happen?
In 1984.
Oh, early on.
Yes.
What point in Hulk Hogan's career was he at? Like, is this the pinnacle? I'm not too familiar with WWE and Hulk Hogan's career, but is this like peak Hulk Hogan years?
I thought you might ask this, and so I went and did the research ahead of time for once.
Oh, look at you.
Hulk Hogan signed with them in 1983 and started his wrestling career in 1979.
Oh, okay. So he had just made it to the big leagues.
Yes.
I would guess as a newcomer he was probably pretty popular. So what on earth inspired or required Stevie to dress up?
Nothing required him to. It was just a Halloween party at the Austin Rehearsal Complex in Austin, Texas.
Okay. Does Hulk Hogan have any ties to Austin himself?
Not that I'm aware of.
Oh, just a fun Halloween costume.
Yeah, he decided last minute to perform in costume, and he got the costume from none other than Randy Hansen.
Randy Hansen, okay.
Randy Hansen's best known for his rock tribute act honoring Jimi Hendrix.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense why you'd hang out with Stevie Ray Vaughan then. So Stevie didn't have any particular affinity for the costume or for...
No, I don't even have any information on how Randy Hansen had it, just that...
Just that he did. Okay, how long was this whole concert? I guess, was it crowded at the venue? Like, what was the deal?
Oh, yeah, it was a concert that had, a bunch of different people performing at it, and so he just did, I don't know, probably a small set.
Right. I'm gonna go ahead and say, for some reason, that this is true.
This is true. You're going with fact.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I guess I'm gonna lock in fact. You've done a good job in tying it to actual musicians. You've done a good job in tying it to, Halloween party makes sense. You got the timing right on the Hulk Hogan thing. So, I don't know. Everything just kind of lines up a little too well for me to think it's a spin. I don't know. I'm locking in fact.
You're right. Everything does line up a little too well because this is a spin.
Oh, man.
So basically, there was a Halloween party at the Austin Rehearsal Complex. He did perform. He actually dressed up as Jimi Hendrix. Fun fact.
Oh, you just...
Hence why he got the costume from Randy Hansen.
Oh, you just changed the costume.
I just changed the costume to another 80s culture icon, and I went with Hulk Hogan.
Nice. Impressive. I gotta give it to you on that one.
And that's the only reason I knew when Hulk Hogan joined the WWF was because I needed to make sure it wasn't after the event. In case you somehow knew that.
All right. That was tricky. That was a sneaky one.
My next one, also something you probably didn't know. He considered calling himself Stingray.
Oh. So obviously this doesn't predate the Police, right? And Sting.
Probably, I assume.
I feel like you get confused if you had Sting and Stingray at the same time. But so he was going to replace Stevie with Sting. Why? Does he like Stingrays or anything? Just a cool name?
Well, reports say it was because of the Stingray guitar he had before he became known for playing Strats.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more.
That's about all I got for you.
Okay.
He had a guitar that had the word Stingray bedazzled on it, and...
Bedazzled?
I assume Stingray... it looks bedazzled in the picture I have, supposedly.
Allegedly.
And I assume Stingray's a type of guitar, like the Strat is. I don't know. I don't know anything about guitars.
Okay. Stingray would be a cool name. I think I'm going to say this one is a fact.
Oh, this one also lines up too good to be a spin?
Well, you think about when you're young and starting out in the music business, you kind of maybe go, I want to have a cool name. I want a pseudonym or band name. And you think of stuff and sometimes it's not good, right? But you think it's good in the moment. And I don't know. A guitar called Stingray is a cool enough reason. If your middle name is Ray, I think I'm going to say it's a fact.
This is a fact.
Woo!
And if you check Discord, you'll see the picture I was talking about.
Oh, yeah, that's very bedazzled. Look at him. He looks like the coolest dude.
Yeah, it's the only photo I could find, so I couldn't, I couldn't validate it anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
It's, captioned as Stingray, Stevie Ray Vaughan, 1979, with pre-1961 360 Fireglow.
Yeah, the guitar, you'll probably see this picture on our socials. The guitar has a really wide body, and it's got wings at the end of it, making it look like a stingray. The neck that would come up from the body of the guitar looks like the stinger. Very cool.
We'll definitely put it on our socials. All right, 1 for 1 so far.
Well, 1 and 1.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry, 1 and 1.
I'm 1 for 2. You're trying to take points away from yourself.
Maybe this is why I'm losing. I need the math department to step in and make sure we've been tallying this right.
I think so.
My next one for you is that he was in a 3-minute long commercial.
For bubble gum?
If only.
3 minutes is a long commercial. What for?
A New Zealand oil company.
Okay. What year did this happen?
1988.
Okay. 1988, sure. Does he have any ties to New Zealand? Does New Zealand have any ties to him?
Hard to tell.
Is it?
I didn't find anything.
Okay. So what's the oil company advertising in this commercial? Are they just trying to sell more oil?
I think so, just trying to sell more fuel. It was, specifically, the company was Europa Fuel.
Europa is selling fuel in New Zealand, by having Stevie Ray Vaughan run 3-minute ads.
This is just what I'm telling you. Believe it or not.
He says, I don't make the facts, but he literally does. Wild. So what's he do in the commercial?
Well, the commercial appears to be like a cheesy late 80s music video for a song called Travelin' On, but it ends up being the Europa Fuel commercial as you go through it.
Oh, okay. I see. Like one of those things that like Marathon would do where they're like, look at this road trip, and then they stop and get Marathon gas every 2 minutes. You're like, whoa.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is pretty much. Drive around New Zealand and eventually stop off near a DC-3 airplane parked in a small town and get gas.
Very interesting. How much did he get paid for this?
I have no idea. They even, after they do that though, they walk into a bar and join Stevie on stage where they continue singing and dancing for the rest of the song.
So it's a subtle little, it's a sneaky product placement.
He can even be seen riding in a tank at one point in it.
In a tank?
Yeah.
But why New Zealand? New Zealand is an island. You can't like road trip much. There's a lot of cool sights to see, but I'm guessing they're not a kind of place that's like huge on gas use.
Yeah, I have no idea.
This is baffling. I'm gonna have to say it's a fact.
And you go with fact again. You don't think I made this up?
If it's a spin, my most likely guess is that this is just about someone else. And you just transplanted Stevie in there.
Well, you don't think I'm creative enough to create this drug trip of a fact?
You could have. I don't know. It just seems like a fact that could be someone else's.
It's not somebody else's. It's his. It's a fact.
Woo,
and
right.
There's a video too. There's a link to the video.
I want to see him in a tank. This is already wild.
I know.
I can't believe it.
See, there's the Europa in the background. They stopped that.
Yep. Almost got hit by an airplane. Stuff's exploding. Oh, man, it's a whole ordeal.
There's the tank.
Wait, that was the Stingray.
It was.
I'm intrigued.
But yeah, that continues on for another like 2 minutes.
Wow. It's unbelievable some of the things that you learn when you start digging into facts for the show.
I got one more for you.
All right, I'm ready for one more wild one.
He was once kidnapped after a gig.
Kidnapped? I love how the facts usually just slowly escalate. It's wonderful. So he's been kidnapped. Intentionally? Did someone target Stevie Ray Vaughan?
Well, that's up for debate.
Okay, what's the debate?
Who was behind it and whether or not it was intentional.
Oh, it's up for debate who was behind it. Nobody knows who did it?
Yeah, it's not a lot of details about this one.
Okay, so he walks out of the venue. The people that are intending apparently to kidnap him go, oh, there's Stevie Ray Vaughan or someone we could kidnap. What next? Like put a sack over his head?
Well, they kind of candy vanned him. They were like,
check out his Stratocaster. We got a guitar back here. Hey, buddy, noticed your nail is pretty rough. We got some super glue. It's the good stuff, the kind you can glue a button on with. Oh, sign me up.
Oh God, I've lost all train of thought.
Obviously, they didn't do that. What they lure him with?
They told him that there was a party going on at their apartments and invited him to go, and he was like, "Yeah, sure, I like the party."
Okay, yeah, sure, why not? Let's go.
So yeah, he went to an apartment with a couple strangers, and they decided to kidnap him.
They actually went to their apartment then.
Well, they went to an apartment in Manhattan. I don't know if it was theirs.
Well, sure. And then they decided to kidnap him?
At some point, I guess. Yeah, I don't know if that was their intent from the beginning or not, but...
What'd they do? Start to, like, take him to somewhere else?
Well, they held him for ransom.
Oh. What was their demand?
That his manager turn over his contract in exchange for his release.
Okay, listen. We just kidnapped you. We want to be your manager. You have him give us the contract, and then we'll take over.
We'll let you change your name to Stingray.
Right. That's a weird demand. Obviously, the manager did not acquiesce.
No, and yeah, he absolutely didn't. Instead, he hired his own goons to go search them out.
Oh, they re-kidnapped him.
It's like stealing from the thief, you know? It's like, is it really stealing?
Well, okay, but the problem with that analogy is that if I steal from a thief, I'm taking my thing back. Like, Stevie Ray Vaughan is a person.
He's your person.
No, he's not. Okay, so what did he do to get free?
I don't know. Mysteriously, they found Stevie 2 days later.
Wow, 2 days. Okay, I'm gonna say this one's a spin.
Well, first off, I got one more piece of information for you.
Oh, whoa, okay.
I mentioned that it was unsure whether or not it was on purpose or intentional.
Yeah.
That's because it was such a strange incident that people close to Stevie kind of thought that maybe his manager arranged the whole thing to discourage him from seeking out other managers.
What? You think his manager arranged a kidnapping where, I guess, yeah, it is weird that they demanded his contract.
His contract, yeah.
And the manager said, no, I'll save you. That is a little bizarre and suspicious.
Others argued it was authentic, but so that's why I said it's kind of up in the air on whether or not.
I'm going to have to say this is a spin.
You're going with spin. What makes you think it's a spin?
Well, I already got 2 right, so the worst I could do is split it 50-50. And I'm feeling spicy. I feel like, maybe this could be a fact, but I don't know. You said there's very little information on it. If someone kidnaps a music star after a gig, while they're touring or playing, and that would be a big deal. You'd surely find something about that. For days even. They held him for a couple days. The manager had a SWAT team go in after him. I'm going to say it's probably a spin, and I think if it was true, you'd have more information.
This is a spin.
Haha. Yes, I caught that one.
You did indeed.
What, is there anything true about it?
No, he was never kidnapped.
Oh, well, good. Thank goodness.
At least never kidnapped that I'm aware of. Let's put it that way.
I was teetering on the edge. That was a good round of fact or spin. I liked a lot of those facts.
It wasn't as good as last week.
Not for you.
That's it. It's officially in. The mixtaper likes Janis Joplin better than Stevie Ray.
It's official. That's the mixtaper's opinion. Now we get to find out James and Connor's opinion. So we will catch you next week, mixtaper, for an episode I am stoked about.
Do I know which one next week is? I don't know.
No, I don't know.
Guess I'll find out hopefully before next week, so I have time to put together fact and spin.
Hope you will.
See you next week. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the album cover of The Sky is Crying. It's a simple one.
It is.
The cover features the man himself leaning up against a car. It's just a picture of him, and it says Stevie Ray Vaughan, The Sky is Crying, in a very 1991 font.
Would have been cooler if it was a tank.
It would have been cooler if it was a tank, objectively. At least we know he got to drive one, or at least ride in one for a while. I don't have much to say about the album cover, to be honest.
What's going on up on the right? And why did they choose to use such a colored and font style that they had to put a black background on the words rather than it just sit on the white?
I think it's a cool stylistic choice. I don't know.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
It just looks like something like a third grader made in Photoshop class.
It kind of does. Yeah. And everything looks like it's been torn up, right? That picture looks like it's been torn out of something and put there.
Either way, it's interesting, that's for sure.
It is. This whole album is interesting. There's a lot going on here. I guess we should get into it. Up first is Boot Hill. Boot Hill indeed. It's another 12-bar blues track. If you recall, we've talked about 12-bar blues on Joan Jett, Hank Williams, and a couple other places. The 12-bar blues, it goes, to remind you, is from a 1 chord to a 4 chord to a 1 to a 5-4-1. So that happens all over the place. It gets used all the time. You get used to that. That's the thing we're going to be saying a lot on this record. It's the 12-bar blues. Because this is a very bluesy record. It's got a lot of cool guitar fills and a lot of licks and riffs and excellent guitar playing.
Excuse me?
What?
Are we licking the guitars in this album?
Well, that's what it's called. A lick. It's like a run of notes that you play.
Why not just call it a run of notes? Why do we have to call it a lick?
Because it's way cooler. And he did pick with his teeth. I bet he got a lick in once or twice.
Fair enough.
But yeah, he's definitely grounded in a lot of like root blues traditions, like the 12-bar style, and a lot of other just similar dominant sevenths and really like standard blues things that you'll hear throughout the record. One thing is, I started up Boot Hill, and when he talks about loving Stratocasters for the strength of their sound, I can really, really hear it right off the bat. Like, that's a strong, powerful sound. The fuzz, the really mellow, ringy tone, it just belts out every note that he plays, and I really love that.
Yeah, it starts off very strong. Like I said, the music kind of smacks you in the face right from the minute you hit play.
It really does. And he sings so well. He's got the most bluesy voice. It's very, like, deep and raspy. Like, he can get a growl in, which is super important for this style. As far as the song itself goes, we don't know who wrote it.
Oh.
It's kind of a mystery. Yeah, but it is a simple song about a guy who murders his lover.
Done a lot of those recently, too.
Yeah, I guess we have, haven't we? The song is so short, right? There's only 3 main verses. There's no chorus to this song, right? As a 12-bar blues song, it's just a verse, verse, verse structure. And he does this really traditional lyrical thing where he repeats the line twice, right? Look up on the wall, baby, hand me my shooting iron. And then he repeats it and says, call your mother long distance, Tell her to expect your body home.
Doesn't repeat that one.
No, he doesn't repeat that one. But the first line of each verse is always repeated. And then the last line where they resolve I guess it's technically a couplet, even though there are 3 phrases. One of them's just the same. But the last line is where it always resolves. If the city don't bury you, baby, Lord knows the county will. You've made your last mistake. You're going way out on Boot Hill. Which is, right, like a common name for a cemetery in ye old 1990s. I'm just kidding. It was before that. But, you know.
Very instrumental. Not as instrumental as some of the other ones, but still very instrumental. And, I like me some instrumentals.
Yeah, that's the other thing I think that might give this a leg up over Janis. Is the just consistent quality of the guitar playing.
The quality of the songs. The better songs are really going to shine more than the not quality song. Ah, yes, astute observation.
Well, I just mean, Big Brother and the Holding Company like to jam, but they couldn't jam like Stevie Ray Vaughan.
They like to try to jam. I don't know if they ever successfully did.
Fair. Roadblock gets a little jammy. I don't know, there's a couple others where they go on a good run, but you're right.
They sure do try.
Way to try. But Stevie succeeds, I think, on songs like Boot Hill, and then the next track, too, The Sky is Crying. I think he does a really good job with that one as well. One thing I noticed, I know it's not related to the guitar, but I really like the drums on The Sky is Crying. He does a great job with that cymbal, and you could just hear this organ playing softly in the background, which gives it just the perfect amount of backdrop for him to come in and just rip all over.
Now, The Sky is Crying is not one of his original ones, right? This is a cover. I feel like I know of other songs with the same name. I guess they don't have to be the same song. Like, I'm fairly certain, doesn't Eric Clapton have a song called The Sky is Crying?
Eric Clapton has a lot of songs called a lot of things. And a lot of them are covers. Yeah, The Sky is Crying is a cover of an Elmore James song. It's by Elmore James, Morris Levy, and Clarence Lewis.
Gotcha.
And I think it's a very captivating album title, especially given the circumstances of his death. I think it's a really good song. This one's a slower variant of the 12-bar blues style, so it's a little better disguised maybe, but I'm sure you can hear some of the similarities between this and Boot Hill, especially with the lyrical structure, where they do the exact same thing that they did before, where they say a line and then repeat it to finish out.
But this time they say 2 lines and then repeat it.
Yeah, I saw my baby early one morning. She was walking on down the street. I saw my baby early this morning. She was walking on down the street. You know it hurt me so bad, made my poor heart skip a beat. So I guess the sentiment of it throughout the record is just so bluesy, right? The idea behind the blues is that you sing about sad things to maybe take that burden off yourself and make you feel better about it. I think the blues is a great vehicle to solicit empathy, and I think these songs do that really well by keeping the lyrics on the simpler side. Just basic expressing what's going on, and this is how I feel about it. I think that really helps.
The songs aren't so much about the lyrics, I feel like, as it is the emotion behind what's being played. Like, you pour your heart and soul into the music, and then you just give some words for some, the words are like the sprinkles on top.
Yes, that's a very good way to look at it. And I even put in my notes that you can tell he's really intended to make this as a musician first and a singer second, because just listen to all the space that he gives the instruments, that he gives himself to play the guitar. He doesn't try and rush the words. He doesn't try and cram too many words in there. It just flows really, really well. The next song is Empty Arms, and this one I think had way more of a rock and roll vibe to it, right? A lot more energy, a lot more...
This was closer to an Elvis-y blue.
Yes.
Elvis would do some blue stuff that he had that Elvis flair on. This reminds me more of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially just right from the way it starts out. It feels like Rock Around the Clock or something, do-do-do-do-do-do.
Can you do that again for me?
No. I don't know. This is a song that I think you'd just be better served to listen to, because I'm in awe. I'm in awe of some of the guitar riffs that he puts into this song, especially the solo really late on in the song. It's only 3.5 minutes, but it's an uproarious 3.5 minutes.
Yeah, I guess blues songs have these tone to them that makes them distinct, ignoring all the formatting of the words, and then just their style, the sound of the song as a whole, its overall tone is distinct.
Yes.
And so when you take that tone and you play something that's more akin to a rock song in that tone, you get something like this. And I really like that. I think it's a good mesh. No other 2 styles I think complement one another as well as a rock and roll blues song does.
Wow, snub the country western, but okay.
Country westerns are just country music, right? I mean,
It's true. You're right.
like this is like taking a rock song and a blues song and putting them together, and you come out with this.
Yeah, it's the mint chocolate chip genre.
Yeah, but less controversial.
Right. It's the Reese's Cup genre.
That's great. Yes, because only people who are allergic to it don't like it.
Hey, if you're out there and you're allergic to the blues, don't listen to this episode.
Have your EpiPen ready just in case.
I like this song. I like the groove it gets into, but I don't like it as much as the next song. Track 4 is Little Wing. And if you're not familiar with Little Wing,
It's probably the most popular one on the album.
oh, it easily is. Little Wing is a cover of a Jimi Hendrix classic, one of Jimmy's biggest songs, and also one of the bigger songs that Stevie Ray Vaughan cut. I'm incredibly familiar with, like, both versions, and I think this is a remarkably faithful adaptation. I think it's also, you can very much tell that he's trying to emulate Jimi Hendrix and channel a lot of that energy, but it's also a totally unique twist on it, just in terms of the sounds that he gets out of the guitar. This is a particular example where he takes a cover and does it justice while making it irrefutably his own, and that's really neat. It's an instrumental track, there's no words.
Which, you gotta love a good instrumental track.
Yup. Yup, it's 6 minutes and 47 seconds long.
So long.
More than 3 times longer than some of the shorter tracks.
It did go on a little long.
Yeah, but so does the Hendrix one.
Yeah.
It's kind of the juggernaut of the album. It feels like the centerpiece.
It's like that last 47 seconds, right? Like they stretched it 47 seconds too long.
Wow.
Keep it under 6 minutes. I don't know. I found my ability. I wasn't like losing interest in the song, but my ability to be interested was waning, right? You can only hold the attention of your audience for so long at a time, the amount of energy it takes to stay focused on something. And so 6 minutes and 47 seconds is a long time to ask somebody to, especially when there's no words to listen to just sit there and focus on your guitar playing.
Actively focus, yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, it's hard. So it's a little long from that standpoint. But to just put on, play it on the radio, jam out to it as you're driving along or whatever, it's perfectly fine in terms of its length.
Yeah, I like Little Wing a lot. I think I would take Little Wing, put on the playlist.
Oh, wow, calling it that early.
I might call it that early. If it's not Little Wing, it might be The Sky Is Crying itself.
Interesting.
Or MTR, I don't know. Now that you mention it, everything's got a pretty equal case for being on the playlist. I guess we'll see where you end up and then go from there. But the next song, the halfway point of the album, is Wham. Wham is just a raucous, really gritty blues jam. It's another one that has a lot of 12-bar blues sections, but there's always a cool way to twist it, This song does mix it up a little more. It does deviate a couple places. I just think it's cool that you barely even realize it's the same chord progression in each of these songs because of how well he's able to dress it up every time.
It's like all the different kinds of chocolate ice cream.
We can't go back to ice cream after you said ice cream was a bad analogy.
Did I say ice cream was a bad analogy? When did I do that?
Well, I said the mint chocolate chip thing, and then we had to switch it to the Reese's Cup.
Well, that was just because mint chocolate chip ice cream specifically is controversial.
Right.
There's a lot of people who don't like mint.
Yeah, that's true.
But in terms of chocolate, you got your chocolate, you got your double chocolates, your double chocolate fudge, your chocolate fudge, there's just all these different versions for the same thing of just how much chocolate flavor can we cram into a scoop of ice cream.
Yeah, and I guess.
He was just trying to see how much 12-bar blue flavor he could cram into one album.
Yeah, it is a lot, but I don't think it gets old. It stays fresh. Wham is a gritty little song. I said it before, but I'll say it again. It's really down and dirty.
Say it again.
It's gritty. I like it.
One more time.
Gritty.
Gritty!
The other thing I like about this song is there's a really, really big rise in the middle, which I think is very cool, very well executed. But that's Wham. The next song is very polite. May I have a talk with you?
Proper English, too.
The Sky Is Crying is also proper English. Didn't bother to point that one out, did you?
Well, no, it's just a lot, the joke that I wrote would be like can instead of may.
I don't know, can you?
Yeah.
This one starts off really discordant, for as polite as it is. It starts off with that really dissonant sound, and that's really, really cool to me. And I think it's got a lot of further moments of just absolute dissonance throughout. And I think it's a special talent to be able to do that in a good way, to recognize, the theory behind how that all goes together, and to make your sevenths and your diminished and your augmented chords sound like they actually fit into the structure of your song, and they're not just noise. Like, this is a guy who knows his theory, who knows his scales, and he really, really puts them to work to the fullest extent. And I think that's the most evident on May I Have a Talk With You.
If I had to pick one song to chop, it'd probably be this one.
Interesting. Understandable. Yeah, I have no pushback against that sentiment.
A lot of these songs are pretty interchangeable in terms of how much I like them.
Yeah, well, that's because a lot of them are similar in a lot of ways. Yeah.
That's with the exception of a couple of the ones that are in my top 3, and then probably this one, because this one would probably have the easiest time chopping.
Especially, like, these songs are, like, they're distinct in their own ways, but especially on the ways that you rank for, like, listenability and for enjoyment level and for how engaged you are. I think they all are about at the same level for those things.
Mm-hmm. And it's also a long song, but not as good as Little Wing.
Yeah, that's true. It's 5 minutes and 48 seconds, clocking in a minute shorter than Little Wing, but still more than a minute longer than the next longest song. There's a really steep jump between most of the songs and then these longest 2. The next song I really like a lot. Track 7 is Close to You. This feels like a really, like, staple blues track to me. If someone's like, hey, I've never listened to the blues, where should I start? Close to You feels like an easily digestible way to get into the genre, like a good entry point, right? It's a cover of a Willie Dixon song.
I want to criticize his lyrical choices here for a little buffoonery. We haven't had some certified buffoonery in a while.
We've had moments of certified buffoonery, but we haven't called them out as such.
It's just some of his analogies he chooses in his verses here. They range from good to, well, okay, duh, to does that even make sense?
Yeah, you're right.
I want to be close to you, baby, as white is to rice. Is he just completely ignoring brown rice? Like, does that just not exist?
I know. Well, that's an expression. That's like an existing.
Is it? I've never heard it.
Well, you've never heard it. It must not exist.
Yeah, it must not exist. As close to ice, okay, sure, whatever. As fire is to smoke, like, isn't the whole thing that smoke rises and, like, gets away from the fire? Like, smoke actively is leaving the fire. It's not close to it.
You're right, but where there's fire, where there's smoke, there's fire. That's the whole thing.
The one that really gets me, as a pig is to pork. Like, okay, duh. Like, pork is a pig. It's what it is. Like, like, that's the one that really gets me. Like, that's the certified buffoonery moment for me, is as a pig is to pork.
Well, the pig is closer to pork than you are, so.
I guess, yeah, you got me there, Stevie Ray.
There you go. Boom. Boom. Sweep the leg on that argument. Moving on. I do like the lyrics are just like fun, lighthearted. This one isn't a sad blues song necessarily. It's a happier thing. Like, I just want to be close to you. I want to hang out with you. I want to smoke pigs with you. Apparently. The next song is another little bit of deviation from your standard blues. Chitlins con Carne. It's a little more of a Latin groove.
Yeah.
And I think that's super unique. This is another cover, but I think it's still very good. It's also...
It's fun. It's another instrumental.
It is. And in addition to more of a Latin side, it also has a lot more like jazz roots to it. So it complexifies the blues in that way.
Which I'm excited for when we do a full jazz one, you know, that's like full like instrumental jazz.
I have one or two on the list.
Like we had like Stevie Wonder that, like, you know, gets into the techno jazz, right?
Sure, the funk, yeah, which has jazz roots.
Yeah, exactly. But I can't wait till we do like full on jazz.
Well, it's coming. It's on the list. I think this song is way more subtle and understated than some of the other tracks, and I think for that reason, it may seem easy to overlook, but what I really think happens is if you actually give it the time of day, I think it shows off how he doesn't have to play loud or anything to show off his skill. He can still get just as much emotion out of the guitar when it's not blaring at, you know, the volume cranked to 11. It really feels like this excellent demonstration of his dynamic proficiency, because he can play just as quiet, and he knows how to make everything rise and fall and swell appropriately. I think it's a great showcase for that side of his technical ability.
That brings us to So Excited.
I'm so excited, and I just can't fight it.
No,
I'm just kidding. That's
no.
different. That's different. Very different. It shoots us right back up, but not all the way to a 10 like we have been. So Excited feels more like a 6 or 7 to me on the energy scale, which is kind of ironic because you'd think you'd be more excited. So Excited is a unique track because it has words, but it doesn't really have words, because the song on the album is an instrumental, but apparently there was one time that Stevie sang the lyrics. One time in like 1985. It didn't get recorded. They didn't make any kind of a cut of it. So the lyrics exist, but they aren't actually a part of the song. So what we got is the instrumental. And I think that's that makes it a very unique track.
Fair enough.
The last song on the album is... What? Oh.
I was going to transition us.
Whoops, sorry, you could do it.
Step all over my toes. Me.
You can do it, go.
So that brings us to our closing track, Life by the Drop.
Good work. Yeah, Life by the Drop is this nice acoustic track that closes us out. If I'm not mistaken, and I don't think I am, he's rocking a 12-string guitar on this one.
Oh.
Which is pretty uncommon for Stevie, and I think it's a cool inclusion on this album because, again, it solidifies in my mind that this record, like while posthumous, is as close to a total scope of his ability and career as we can get in 10 tracks.
This is for some reason, I don't know if there's another version, because this isn't original to him either, is it?
Well, no, it's not original to him. It was written by his friend, Doyle Bramhall.
I don't know, I feel like I've heard this song before. It seemed familiar to me.
Maybe.
Which of all the Stevie Ray Vaughan songs to know, felt weird that this would be the one I'd know.
And what's interesting about it is Stevie's friend wrote it, but the lyrics are about Stevie. So he recorded this cover. I mean, it's the first recording, even though he didn't write it. And he's basically singing about himself through the eyes of someone else. And I think that's really interesting.
Not as weird as calling his own eyes Baby Blues, though.
No, not as weird as that. Sorry, Randy Travis.
Even though this is a blues album.
Yeah, but he's an adult. He's got adult blues.
If Randy Travis had referred to his eyes as adult blues, would that have made it better?
Would have made it worse. Think about this. Life by the Drop's not only the conclusion to this album, it's the conclusion of, like, new music that would be released by Stevie Ray Vaughan. This is the last Stevie Ray Vaughan song to exist.
His last drop of life.
Good night. Right. It's pretty dark. And I think because of that, it's actually one of the most popular songs off this record. It's got nearly 28 million listens just on Spotify alone. And I love the way that he sings it. It's so emotional. It's so powerful. And it just sounds good. It's such a nice way to send off this record that's been so bluesy and, you know, big guitar sounds and stuff. It's just him. It's a 12-string guitar, and he's singing about himself.
And he does it well. Just like we're gonna do the final spin really well because we're professionals.
Yeah. Well, you'd think, 36 episodes in, we might be a little closer.
One would hope, and one would be disappointed.
Hey, are you disappointed? My take on this album, I think this is a great album if you're looking for blues, if you're looking for guitar playing excellence, or if you're just looking for a great record that can be both an active and a passive listen. I think you're going to get out of this album what you put into it. So maybe what you want from it varies from play to play, right? It kind of offers up as much or as little as you're willing to take. And since it's career spanning, I think it's a great introduction and a great overview of Stevie Ray Vaughan as an artist because we got all of these different influences, all these different styles, so many different demonstrations of his talent and technical skill over the last 5 years of his life. It's all summed up right on this one record, and I think that's really awesome. I don't know, and it's interesting because, like, while we've had great musicians on the podcast before, I think a lot of great musicians that we've talked about are duly recognized for their songwriting, for their singing, for other things. And Stevie is a case where, yeah, he can write a song, and he can sing, but he's, like, really a guitarist first and foremost. And we haven't talked about too many people like that yet, who are primarily instrumentalists. So I guess that gets us down to scores. I feel like I've said a lot of what I need to say already about this album.
Just hit us with the numbers then.
Yeah, we'll hit you with the numbers real quick. Music, I'm giving a 77.
Okay.
With an asterisk. I'll clarify in a minute. Lyrics, I'm giving an 84, which is as close as pig is to pork. Instruments and production, I'm giving a 94. And then overall vibe is getting an 87, which, just a side note for that one too, I think the overall vibe is really, really impressive given that it was put together by his brother. I think it's really well constructed, even though it was put together by a third party. But my asterisk for music is that my music score is mostly about just the super abundance of 12-bar blues. I considered all of his solos and improvisations like they're top-notch, but mostly those factored exclusively into instrumentation, because that's literally what he's all about. The way he plays his instrument, the feeling that's behind it. The music itself, the melodies are pretty standard blues. The 12-bar blues chord progressions are like normal. They're abundant in the genre. And there's nothing like particularly special about these 12-bar blues or this vocal melody versus the other. What really sets this album apart is his guitar playing, his solos, and his instrumentation. So that's why instrumentation is jacked way up in the mid-90s, and music is maybe a little on the lower side, even though he's a great musician. I'm watching a squirrel fall asleep on a tree branch outside my window.
Is it supposed to be computing math scores for us right now? Because so it's...
Yeah, he's sleeping on the job.
Anyway, what's your total score?
My overall score for this album is an 82.8. But that puts it at number 272 overall. I like it. I think it's an entertaining album, and like I said, you get out of it what you put into it. It's good for a myriad of situations, whether you want to deep listen and dig in for substance musically, or whether you just want to have something on in the background to just have rocking out while you're doing other things. I think it spans that gap. And I'll have to point out as well, it's somewhere around 30 spots lower than Cheap Thrills by Big Brother and the Holding Company and Janis Joplin. So that one was the better record for me. I'm curious to see which one's better for you.
Well, considering Joplin's my lowest score ever.
Well, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a very low bar to beat, is all I'm saying. It doesn't have to do much to beat it. And spoiler alert, it does it.
Yeah, it doesn't have to do much, but boy does it ever.
It does just that. It does much. Let's just quickly name drop my top threes, and then I'll kind of give a quick little brief summary. We got in album order: Empty Arms,
Good
Little
choice.
Wing.
Good choice.
Honorable mention going to Chitlin's Con Carne.
Good choice.
And Life by the Drop.
Good choice.
I knew that Empty Arms and Little Wing had to be top three, but you could make a case for any of the other songs to take the spot over Life by the Drop, I think. That's just kind of how it fell. I gave honorable mention the Chitlins over anything else just because of those kind of, like you said, Latin vibes that it snuck in there that I really liked. And like you said, it kind of goes under the radar.
It does.
If you're not careful. But overall, it was a very homogenous album in terms of my feelings on it.
That's a great word for it. It's a homogenous album in terms of...
I break out those college level words every once in a while. All right.
Yeah.
I got the degree to prove it.
Every once in a while, I take a break from gluing my pants to say words like homogenous.
As for a score, I don't know where I want to put it.
All right. Thanks for listening to this. Well, I mean, walk me through your thought process at the moment. Where is it close?
Well, I like it a lot, but I don't know about its re-listenability. Like I said, the songs are so homogenous and so similar sounding. Just had to throw that word out there a second time.
Really get as much mileage out of it as you can.
The majority of them would be way more like I would never put this album on with the intent to actively listen to the whole thing. This would be another one of those albums that I put on that I wanted to listen to, but more as background music.
Right.
Like I like it better than some albums, but I'd listen to other albums I think more often than this one, given the choice.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I'm gonna give it. I'm eyeing my spreadsheet and I see a spot that looks appealing to me, so I'm gonna pull the trigger. This one's gonna get 6 super glued buttons out of 10 for me.
6 out of 10. All right. And if I might ask, where in your 6s does that fall?
Right below Me and My Gang.
That's where I thought you'd put it.
And right above Apoptosis.
That's a respectable score.
I thought about putting it above Me and My Gang because again, I like it better than Me and My Gang, and I think I like it better than Permanent Vacation. It's almost too homogenous for its own good. There, I got it in there 3 times. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, 6 super glued buttons.
Okay. That'll hold up 6 super glued pants.
Hopefully.
If our theory is correct.
If our theory is correct, with a strong enough glue.
Yeah. I guess that settles that. You're not anti-blues. Aerosmith, by the way, also very blues rocky. So, interesting that it scored so close together. I think you're definitely way more into the rock side of the blues than the acid rock side of the blues.
As for my pick for the podcast, I think I'm going Empty Arms.
Okay.
Especially if you're going Little Wing.
It's a double whammy. Ironically, Wham is not part of the double whammy. But Empty Arms and Little Wing they're like monster tracks. They're so good. Well, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Spin It. We're happy to have you here. And we'll see you next week with an episode that has been a long time coming. It's been teased and teased and teased again. Sometimes as far back as 16, 17 episodes ago. So the day is finally arriving. And that's all I'll say about it.
No? Are we finally doing?
Yeah, finally.
We're finally doing it?
Don't tell the mixtaper.
Oh man, I was not let down.
It's gonna be a let up.
Okay.
It's gonna exceed your high expectations, I hope.
I hope so. I hope you're not overselling it.
Keep spinning.
Keep spinning.
I didn't do the thing. Dang it. Follow us on social media at SpinItPod Official on Instagram and at SpinItPod on Twitter. www.spinitpod.com is our website where you'll find all the information, all the other stuff about Spin It. We'll see you next week. Stevie Ray Vaughan is like pork close.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.